Sometimes it's time. And he gave it. Quietly, completely, without question. The next morning, Anna walked into the studio earlier than usual. The air was different. Not because anything had changed on set, but because something inside her had shifted. She had spoken words that had stayed buried for years, and he, Keanu, had stayed without needing to say much at all. People smiled at her when she entered. Makeup artists, crew members, extras, all of them polite, professional, but no one asked if she was okay. No one noticed her hands still trembled slightly when she touched her phone. They only saw her on time, in costume, ready. But behind her smile, something was fragile. And then she saw him again. Keanu was sitting at a table near the edge of the set, alone, coffee in hand, script untouched, like he was waiting without rushing. Their eyes met. He didn't smile big. He didn't wave. He just nodded the way he always did, like a quiet promise that he was present. Anna felt a strange warmth in her chest. She walked over, slowly, carefully. When she reached him, she pulled out the chair beside him and sat down. "I didn't think you'd be here this early," she said. Keanu looked at her, then glanced toward the ceiling. "I couldn't sleep." "Me either." They sat in silence for a beat. This time, it was her that broke it. "I had a dream," she said, voice soft. Keanu looked at her, not pressing. "My brother was there," she continued. "He was laughing. I haven't heard that laugh in so long. It was the one from when we were kids, before he got sick." Keanu's gaze didn't waver. "It felt real," she whispered. "And when I woke up, I just wanted to go back to sleep." He finally spoke. "Dreams are the places that grief doesn't chase us. Not always." Anna's eyes welled up again, but she smiled through it. "I think talking to you brought it out. It's strange. I never talk about him, not even with people close to me." "Sometimes strangers carry less weight than friends," he said. "And sometimes, someone who's quiet enough hears what others miss." Anna looked down. Her fingers traced the edge of her coffee cup. "Do you believe people can find peace in this industry?" she asked. Keanu paused. "I believe peace is a room we build inside ourselves, not outside. And if we're lucky, someone else knocks on the door and doesn't leave." Her shoulders eased. Someone from the crew walked by, giving them a subtle signal. It was time for rehearsal. Anna stood, but this time she didn't leave anything behind. Not her story, not her thoughts, not her brother's memory. As they walked to set together, she turned to him and asked quietly, "What keeps you kind?" Keanu looked ahead and said, "Knowing how it feels when someone isn't." The day moved on. Scenes were filmed, makeup was touched up, dialogue was rehearsed, but through it all, a thread connected them now. Not a romantic one, not a public one, just a quiet understanding. During a lunch break, Anna sat beside him again. She didn't eat much. Neither did he. Their silence wasn't awkward. It had become a language of its own. She glanced over. "Do you regret any of it?" Keanu tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "The fame, the noise, the parts of yourself you had to give up." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I regret the moments I stayed quiet when someone needed to hear the truth. I don't regret giving parts of myself away, because sometimes those parts helped someone else hold on." Anna leaned back in her chair. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for that." "You are," he said. "You just don't believe it yet." She looked at him. Not as a co-star, not as a Hollywood legend, but as a person who had lived quietly through storms and still found a way to offer shelter. "What if I never become who they want me to be?" she asked. Keanu looked at her and replied simply, "Then become who you need." And somehow, those 6 words stayed with her longer than any applause ever had. Late that night, the final shot wrapped. Everyone started to pack up. Laughter echoed through the lot. Vans beeped. Grips rolled carts past trailers. Another day done. Anna stood outside her trailer, unsure if she was waiting for something or someone. Then she heard footsteps. She didn't turn right away. Keanu's voice came softly. "You okay?" "No," she admitted. "But I'm closer than yesterday." He walked up beside her, looking out into the night with her. "You want to walk?" he asked. She nodded. They walked through the quiet edge of the studio. No cameras, no fans, just pavement and the sky. "My brother loved the stars," she said after a while. "He'd lie on the roof and point out constellations. He used to say they reminded him that there was more out there than our little world." "He was right," Keanu replied. "But sometimes the bravest thing is staying grounded when everything else feels too far away." The hallway was silent. Not the kind of silence that comforts you, but the kind that presses against your chest like a slow breath you forgot how to take. Outside, the lights of the studio blinked lazily. Another late night. Another film. Another scene that wasn't about acting anymore, but about holding something in. Ana de Armas sat alone in the green room, not scrolling, not sipping tea, just still. Her phone sat face down beside her, untouched. Her hands rested quietly in her lap, thumbs brushing together in slow, anxious circles. It was the kind of quiet where even the hum of the vending machine sounded loud. But the silence inside her head was louder. Then, the door opened. It didn't swing or creak. It just eased open the way someone does when they already know the air inside the room is too heavy. Keanu Reeves stepped in. He didn't speak, not right away. He just nodded a little, his eyes scanning the room, not to judge, not to question, just to understand. He carried no bag, no script, not even his phone, just himself. He walked with the kind of calm that made the room remember how to breathe again. Slowly, he sat down across from her. They had just wrapped another difficult shoot. The emotional scene had drained everyone, but Anna, she had gone somewhere deeper. She had cried for real when she wasn't supposed to, and when the director yelled cut, she had walked off without looking back. Keanu hadn't followed immediately. He had given her time. But now he was here, and she noticed. Her eyes flicked up to meet his, tired, red, honest. "You don't have to stay," she whispered, her voice raw like a note left in the rain. He didn't answer with words. He just leaned back into the chair and placed his palms gently on his knees. She tried to chuckle, but it came out broken. "You're stubborn." A soft smile touched his lips, but he didn't push her, not even a little. It wasn't his place. Minutes passed. They didn't speak. And still, somehow, the silence between them started to change shape. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was warm, alive, like a shared fire in the middle of a cold field. Finally, Anna spoke again. "You ever feel like people expect you to be fine? Like, always?" Keanu nodded once, slowly. "Yes," he said. "Even when you're falling apart?" "Especially then." She stared at him. This wasn't acting. This wasn't a script. This was something human, something bruised, and somehow, something safe. "It's been a hard year," she admitted, fingers twisting gently in her lap. "I know. But they think I'm lucky." He nodded again. "They see what you do, not what you carry." Her throat tightened. "I hate crying in front of people." "You didn't cry in front of people," he said. "You cried in front of someone who stayed." She blinked. Her lips parted slightly. For a moment it felt like something in her cracked, but in a good way. Like a wall that had held too much for too long, finally letting sunlight through. "Why do you always do that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do what?" "Make silence feel okay." Keanu looked at her with eyes that held stories he'd never tell. "Because sometimes silence is where the truth lives." Outside, someone called for them, distant, muted by the walls. Anna didn't move. Neither did Keanu. "They need us back on set," she murmured. He shrugged gently. "They'll wait." And just like that, the silence returned. But this time, it was different. It wasn't something to escape. It was something to protect. And that's when she broke. Not with sobs, not with shaking, but with the kind of honesty that only comes when someone doesn't walk away. "I lost someone," she said. "Not recently, but I never said it out loud." Keanu didn't flinch. He didn't lean in dramatically or give her a rehearsed line. He just breathed with her. "Who?" he asked softly. "My brother," she whispered. "He was younger. He died before I moved to LA." Keanu looked down, not to avoid, but to hold space. Then he looked back up. "You carry him in your work?" "In everything." He nodded slowly. "Then he's not gone." Anna wiped a tear from her cheek, not ashamed, just human. "You think people can heal without forgetting?" she asked. "I think the right people never ask you to forget," he answered. The clock on the wall ticked. Seconds. Minutes. The world still moved, but inside that room something had stopped, and something else had started. Anna stood up slowly, not to leave, just to breathe deeper. "Thank you," she said. "You don't owe me that," Keanu replied. "Maybe not, but I need to say it." Keanu smiled. "Then I'll stay a little longer." And he did, even when the call came again, even when the assistant director knocked gently on the door, even when the rest of the crew moved on. Keanu Reeves stayed. Because sometimes the best thing you can give someone is not advice, not comfort, not even understanding. Anna stopped walking and looked up. "I hope he knows I still think about him," she said. "He knows," Keanu said. "The heart doesn't forget who taught it how to feel." And in that moment, under that quiet sky, Anna felt something lift. Not everything, but enough to keep going. The following week, the studio returned to its usual rhythm, lights buzzing overhead, chairs scraping on concrete floors, calls echoing down the hallway. People moved quickly, heads down, chasing the schedule. Cameras rolled, makeup brushes swept, scenes were shot, cut, and redone. But something about Anna felt different. Not louder, not more confident, just quieter in a way that made people glance twice. She smiled when people spoke to her. She laughed when the jokes were real. But deep behind her eyes, something had settled, something that no one could name, except maybe one person. And he was watching from across the set. Keanu didn't hover. He never did. But every time she looked up, he was somewhere near, not guarding her, not guiding her, just present. On Wednesday, during a small break between scenes, Anna stepped outside the set and sat on the studio steps. The afternoon sun cast long, tired shadows. She pulled her knees to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. Her mind wasn't on the scene. It wasn't on the director's notes. It was back home, years ago, watching her little brother dance barefoot on the kitchen tiles. She could still hear the echo of his voice when he used to beg her to play music louder. Back then, they didn't care who was watching. "You okay?" The voice pulled her gently back. She looked up. Keanu stood there, hands in his pockets, no expression forced on his face. She nodded, but the truth wavered in her eyes. He didn't ask again. He sat down next to her, facing the street. Anna took a deep breath. I used to dance with him every Saturday morning. Didn't matter how we felt. Didn't matter what was happening outside. It was our rule. Keanu listened. No interruption, no reaction, just space. After he died, I stopped dancing. Even when the music played, I'd just freeze. A silence settled between them, and then she asked something that surprised even her. Do you have someone you still carry? Keanu turned his head slowly, eyes soft. A few. She nodded, not needing more than that. Sometimes I wonder if people can see the grief on my face, she said. Sometimes they do, he answered. But they don't know what to call it, so they call it strength. Anna looked down at her hands. It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like glass. Like if someone touches me too hard, I'll crack. Glass still reflects light, he said quietly. Anna blinked. It wasn't just what he said, but how gently he said it. Like he wasn't trying to fix her. Just remind her that even broken things could still shine. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. One of the scenes they were filming was a flashback. Anna's character had to laugh, run barefoot, and spin in the rain. The director had designed it to be soft, emotional, a little surreal. As they prepared, Anna hesitated. The shoes came off. The rain machine began. Music started playing low from a speaker on set to help her get into the mood. And suddenly, it wasn't just a scene anymore. It was Saturday morning in her childhood kitchen. The music, the water, the bare feet, it all rushed in at once. She stood frozen in place. The extras waited. The director called out gently, "Whenever you're ready." She swallowed. Her heart beat fast. Her throat tightened. And then, just outside the camera frame, she saw him. Keanu stood with his hands in his jacket pockets, just like before. But this time, he didn't look at her with concern. He smiled, and he nodded once. Soft, quiet. Like saying, "He's still with you." Anna blinked back the tears. She took a breath, and she danced. Not perfectly, not in character, not like an actress, but like a girl who had finally let the memory out of the locked room in her chest. When the director called cut, the crew clapped. Some thought she had pulled off an incredible performance, but Keanu knew. He walked up slowly, handing her a towel. "You did it," he said. She wiped her face, laughing breathlessly through water and tears. "I think he would have liked that." "I know he would have." Later that night, she sat outside her trailer again. The stars were faint. The city lights always dulled them, but she didn't mind. Keanu joined her a few minutes later, this time holding 2 mugs of tea. She took hers with a soft smile. "You always know." "Not always," he said. "Just sometimes, when I listen carefully." They drank quietly, and then she said something that had been sitting at the edge of her mind since that afternoon. "I used to think healing was something loud, something big. Like one day you'd just wake up and feel whole again." "I hope not," he said, "because the people who break are the ones telling the truth." Anna closed the notebook and held it to her chest. "Maybe I'll keep writing," she said. "Not for anyone else, just for me." "You should," he replied. "Your voice deserves a place to live." The next day she brought the notebook with her to set, tucked into her bag, quiet and close. Between takes, she wrote one sentence over and over. "He didn't try to fix me. He just stayed." Anna woke up before her alarm. The city outside her window was still sleeping, but her mind was already pacing. She had barely slept, not because of nightmares, but because of something new. A memory. Not of pain, not of fear. A moment. The sound of her own laughter. It had happened yesterday. Offset, away from the cameras. She and Keanu had been sitting near the catering truck when someone spilled an entire tray of fruit across the pavement. It had rolled under tables, bounced off shoes, even hit the back tire of a director's car. The crew scrambled to help, some trying not to laugh, others shouting directions like it was a rescue mission. And Anna laughed. Not a small one, not polite, not staged, a real one. It startled her, but it also felt like the most honest thing she'd done in weeks. And when she looked up, Keanu was watching her, not with surprise, not with confusion, just warmth. He had seen her as she was, without needing to ask why the smile had taken so long to return. That morning on set, the director pulled her aside. "Anna, you've been amazing lately. Really. There's a glow in your performance. It's real." She nodded, thanking him. But the truth was, the glow wasn't from the performance. It was from the space she had finally allowed herself to feel safe in. And that space looked a lot like the silence Keanu gave her. That day, they filmed a scene that mirrored a conversation they had shared in real life. A character torn between remembering and moving on, between pretending and breaking down. Anna's role was supposed to cry at a specific line. The tears were supposed to come like clockwork. The script had it underlined. Pause, emotional beat, single tear. But when the moment arrived, she didn't cry. Instead, she whispered the line, then paused, and smiled. Not because the scene didn't hurt, but because the pain didn't own her anymore. When the director called cut, there was a strange silence on set. No one moved. Then he spoke. "Don't change a thing." That was better than the script. Anna glanced toward Keanu. He gave her the smallest nod. He had seen it again. During their break, she found him near the edge of the sound stage, sitting alone with a notebook. She hadn't seen him write before. "What's that?" she asked, easing down beside him. "Thoughts," he said. She smiled. "Can I read one?" He hesitated, then turned the page around and slid the book over. Written in small, quiet letters. "Some people don't need saving. They just need someone who won't walk away when it gets hard to breathe." Anna looked up, blinking. "That's beautiful." "It's what I've learned," he said, "over time, over silence, over loss." She placed her hand over the notebook gently. "It's also true." A pause. Then she asked something that had been building inside her for days. "Why me?" Keanu turned to her. "Why stay for me?" He didn't rush to answer. Finally, he said, "Because you didn't ask me to. You just needed someone who could see you and not flinch." She felt the weight of his words settle around her heart like a soft blanket. "Has anyone ever done that for you?" she asked quietly. He looked away. The silence stretched. "Once," he said. "A long time ago." Anna didn't press. "What happened?" Keanu closed the notebook. "They left anyway." That night, Anna sat on the floor of her apartment, her notebook open beside her, a cup of tea untouched on the table. She stared at the ceiling and thought about all the people who had told her to toughen up, to move on, to smile for the cameras. None of them had stayed long enough to understand that silence wasn't weakness. It was weight. And Keanu, he had carried some of that weight with her. Not because he wanted anything, not because he needed credit, but because that's what kind people do. They carry. They stay. The next morning, she brought something with her to set. A folded photo. It was old, faded. A picture of her and her little brother dancing barefoot on the balcony. He was mid-spin. She was laughing, eyes squinted shut. She handed it to Keanu. "This is the moment I want to carry forward," she said. "Not the hospital, not the goodbye. Just this." Keanu took the photo gently, like it was made of glass. "Thank you," he said. Anna nodded. "You've reminded me of him in a way." "How?" "Not in how you look. In how you make silence feel safe." Keanu smiled, folding the photo back into its frame. "Then I'll stay as long as silence is needed." Keanu looked up at the sky. "Healing isn't loud. It's quiet. Like choosing to stay. Like dancing even when it hurts." Anna nodded slowly. "Thank you for staying." "I told you. As long as you need." She glanced sideways at him. "You ever get tired of being that person? The one who stays?" He looked at her with the kind of truth most people never say out loud. "Sometimes. But then I remember how it felt when no one stayed for me." And just like that, the silence was full again, not of pain this time, but of trust. It had been 2 weeks since the rain scene, and Anna had started smiling again, not the public kind, not the red carpet kind, but the kind that reaches the corners of your soul. The kind you forget how to wear until someone helps you remember. On set, her energy had shifted. Not louder, not bolder, just more present. She began to walk through the studio with a kind of quiet steadiness. Not everything was healed, but something was finally open. The world outside the set still spun its chaos. Gossip sites speculated about her mood swings, her silences, her chemistry with co-stars. Interviews asked her about the spark between her and Keanu. Her publicist begged her to smile more, talk more, sell more. But none of that mattered when she stepped into the space that had become hers and Keanu's. Their space wasn't labeled, it wasn't in the script, it wasn't official. But it existed, in shared silences, in the pauses between scenes, in the gentle way he handed her tea without asking how she was. And yet, even in all that comfort, there were still moments that shook her. One happened on a Thursday morning. They were rehearsing a scene where her character had to yell, really yell, at someone who had betrayed her. It was a raw, emotional stretch that required more than acting. It required memory. Anna was fine during the first take, but by the third, something snapped. Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. She dropped the final line mid-sentence and walked off the soundstage. No one stopped her. Not the director, not the assistant. They all knew that look now. They had seen it once before. Keanu followed, not right away. He waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then he walked. He found her behind the props truck, sitting on the pavement, knees pulled in again. Her face was buried in her hands. He sat beside her without a word. After a long silence, she spoke, barely above a whisper. "It wasn't the line," she said. "It was the way he looked at me. The actor. For a second, I saw my father." Keanu didn't move. He used to yell like that, and I'd just stand there, frozen, pretending not to cry. She looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "I thought I was past it. I thought I'd buried that version of me." Keanu reached into his coat pocket and handed her a folded tissue. Not a word spoken. She wiped her eyes, breathing hard. "I hate how fast it comes back. How a single expression can open a door you locked years ago." Keanu finally spoke, voice soft. "We don't bury our pain. We carry it. It lives under our skin. And sometimes, all it takes is a look to remind us that we're still healing." Anna shook her head. "I don't want to be broken forever." "You're not," he said. "You're just brave enough to admit where it hurts." She looked at him, her expression unreadable at first. Then slowly, she leaned her head on his shoulder. Not for romance, not for escape, just to stop shaking. Keanu didn't move. They sat like that for a while. No lines rehearsed, no audience watching, just two people holding space. Later that evening, Anna knocked softly on his trailer door. Keanu opened it. She stood there, holding a small notebook in her hand. "I wrote something," she said. He stepped aside to let her in. His trailer was quiet, calm, books on a shelf, a guitar resting on the couch. No noise, no clutter, just intention. She sat on the edge of the couch and opened the notebook. "I started journaling again," she said. "First time in years." He sat across from her. "I want to read you something," she continued. He nodded. Anna cleared her throat. Her voice was shaky but steady enough. "Today I remembered the little girl who used to sleep with the lights on." She didn't know why she was scared, but her heart never stopped racing. She grew up thinking she was weak, until someone told her that fear was just another kind of memory, not failure. She looked up. His eyes didn't move from hers. "That someone was you," she whispered. "I changed her name in the story, but she knows who she is, and she knows who stayed." Keanu exhaled slowly. His voice was gentle. "Thank you for letting me hear that. Thank you for giving me a reason to write it." They sat in stillness again. But now it was filled with something else. Trust, courage, the kind of closeness that doesn't need labels. "You think I'll ever stop breaking mid-scene?" she asked. A few hours later, someone on set joked that Anna seemed too soft for this industry. It was loud enough for her to hear. She froze. But before she could respond, Keanu stepped beside her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He just said calmly, "Soft doesn't mean weak. Sometimes it means you survived more than anyone knows." The joke stopped. The room went quiet. Anna didn't need to say a word. He had seen her. Again. And this time, he had spoken when she couldn't. The final week of filming arrived like a slow breath. Everything was quieter now. The rush that usually filled the last days of production felt softer this time. Maybe it was the story they were telling. Maybe it was something deeper. Anna stood in her trailer early that morning, holding the notebook Keanu had given her the day before. He'd left it without saying much. Just a gentle knock on the door, a soft nod, and then he walked away. She opened it and saw only one page filled. It said, "If you ever feel lost, read the pages you've already written. They'll remind you of the path you made for yourself." Anna sat down and held the notebook to her chest like it was breathing, because something in her finally was. That day's scene was the final one. Not just on the schedule, but in the story. The two main characters, hers and Keanu's, were supposed to sit on a bench and say nothing for nearly a full minute. No words, no action, just presence. The director had described it as a quiet goodbye. But everyone on set knew there was more in it than that. Anna and Keanu didn't rehearse it. They didn't need to. When the cameras rolled, they sat side by side under soft stage lighting. No music, no extras, just a bench, a background, and the history they carried into it. Anna looked at him. He looked at her, and for 48 seconds nothing happened. But everything moved. Her fingers trembled slightly, just once. He saw it. His shoulder leaned slightly toward hers. She didn't flinch. He didn't speak. And when the director finally said, "Cut," no one exhaled right away. Because something real had just happened in front of them, and everyone knew it wasn't acting. After wrap, the crew clapped. Hugs were exchanged. People posed for photos. Makeup was wiped off, costumes returned, lights dimmed. But Anna stayed behind. So did Keanu. They stood on that same bench set, now half disassembled, wires visible, paint scuffed. It wasn't beautiful anymore, but it didn't matter. Anna turned to him. "Do you remember what you said the first day you sat beside me?" Keanu thought for a moment. I said nothing. Exactly, she smiled. And it helped more than anything else could have. He smiled back. You were carrying too much. I just offered a quiet place to set it down. Anna's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. You know what scares me? She asked. He shook his head gently. Going back out there, she said. After all this. After finally learning how to breathe. Keanu stepped a little closer. You'll go back stronger, he said. Not because you've changed, but because now you know your silence has value. Anna nodded slowly. I used to think I had to be loud to matter, she whispered. But you showed me something different. You don't have to shout, he said. You just have to show up. They stood in silence again, but this time, it was different. It wasn't the silence of pain, it was the silence of peace. Weeks later, the film premiered. Audiences cried. Reviews praised the performances. Headlines buzzed about unspoken chemistry. People wanted to know if it was real, but none of them understood what had actually happened behind the camera. Anna watched the film alone the first time, in a private room, lights dim, sound turned low. When that final bench scene came on, she pressed pause, and she cried, not because she was sad, but because she had been seen. The next morning, she sent Keanu a message. Thank you for never asking me to be okay. He replied a few minutes later. Thank you for letting me stay. Months passed. Life moved. Roles changed. Interviews came and went. But every now and then, Anna would open that notebook, the one with his handwriting on the first page, and add something new. Not poems, not scenes, just small truths, like he didn't fix me, he just stayed. My silence wasn't empty. It was waiting. I became more whole because someone didn't leave. And one day, years later, on a different set, a young actor sat beside her, anxious, quiet, hands trembling in their lap. Anna didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't offer advice. She just handed them a cup of tea and said softly, I'll stay as long as you need.